So if you're using generative AI tools, like ChatGPT or Gemini to help you write things, and let's be honest, who isn't these days, you always hit that same wall at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
The text comes out, it's clean, it's usually factually right, but it just feels sterile.
Mm-hmm.
It's missing that human spark that makes writing actually good.
Yeah, that flatness. That's exactly what we call the linguistic fingerprint.
Mhm.
And as fast as AI has gotten good at writing, the detectors tools like GPTZero, Originality.ai, they've gotten incredibly good at spotting that exact fingerprint.
So they're hunting for the robot patterns.
They're hunting for uniformity,
Yeah.
for predictability. That's a dead giveaway.
Okay, so the mission for this deep dive is not just about making your content better. It's about giving you a real toolkit to infuse that content with enough personality, enough of your own quirks, that it connects with people and sales right past those algorithms.
Right.
We've gone through the technical papers, the best practices, all of it, to figure out how to generate, edit, and prompt text that sounds genuinely human.
To make AI sound like you.
Exactly. Let's unpack this.
And what's so fascinating is that to get around the detectors, you first have to understand what they're even looking for.
Right. Know thy enemy.
Pretty much.
Right.
They're scanning text based on two main statistical metrics. And both are really just designed to measure how uniform, how predictable the writing is.
So we need to find the robot's weaknesses before we can exploit them. What's the first big tell?
The first one is a concept called perplexity.
Perplexity, okay.
Yeah, it's basically a measure of how predictable a piece of text is. Think of it this way. When an AI writes, it's always predicting the most statistically likely next word after word after word.
So if every single word is the most obvious choice, the perplexity score is super low.
Exactly. It's like watching a robot read a script. It never deviates. That's a low perplexity score, and it's a huge AI signal.
Like a completely flat line.
A flat line. But humans, we are high perplexity writers. We love linguistic chaos.
Huh, I like that. Linguistic chaos.
We use a surprising metaphor. We change our tone halfway through a sentence. We pick a word just because it feels right, not because it's the most common. That's human.
Okay, so that's word choice. What's the second metric?
The second one is called burstiness.
Burstiness.
If perplexity is about the words, burstiness is all about the rhythm of the sentences, their length and their complexity. AI models are, well, they're rhythmically boring.
Oh, so?
They tend to write sentences that are all roughly the same length, usually, somewhere in that 15 to 25 word range, over and over again.
It's like the textual equivalent of a metronome, just a steady, predictable beat.
Precisely. A metronome. Humans just don't write like that. We switch it up. We use a short, punchy sentence for impact,
Yeah.
then a medium one for clarity. And then we'll follow it up with a long, complex sentence to really dig into an idea. It creates this natural ebb and flow.
And this is where it gets really interesting for anyone listening, because this burstiness problem, it gives us the most powerful, most immediate manual fix. This is something you can use today.
Absolutely. Our sources point to a very specific formula for this.
It's called the 20-50-30 rule.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic guide for breaking up that AI rhythm.
So walk us through it. How does that break down in practice?
Okay, so the idea is that about 20 to 30% of your sentences should be short. We're talking under 10 words. These are your impact sentences.
Got it. Short and punchy.
Then the bulk of it, maybe 40 to 50%, should be medium length, 10 to 20 words. This is where you lay out your main points clearly.
The workhorses.
And finally, the last 30% should be long sentences over 20 words. This is where you get complex, connect ideas, and build that really human rhythm.
And the goal here isn't just to sound good, right? It's about managing the reader's cognitive load. That variation keeps you engaged. If it's all one length, your brain just tunes out.
It absolutely does. And you can really see the difference. Let's take a typical AI-generated thought, something like, the integration of AI transforms various industries. It automates mundane tasks effectively. Companies successfully achieve significant cost savings. The overall workplace productivity increases dramatically.
Ugh, you can just feel the robot. 4 sentences, all clean, all basically the same length. So predictable. But if we apply that 20-50-30 rule and add a human voice,
It changes completely.
it becomes something like, AI is genuinely shading things up across multiple sectors. Automation handles the bulk of the repetitive work, which frees up personnel for more creative tasks, a critical shift for innovation. Yes, businesses are seeing significant cost savings, but it's that boost of productivity, that sense of new possibility that really defines the transformation, don't you think?
See, that version has a short question at the end, a complex sentence in the middle, and it starts with a punchier opening. That rhythmic variation is a massive human signal.
Okay, so structure is burstiness, but what about the actual words, the vocabulary, which goes back to perplexity, because AI doesn't just have a rhythmic tell, it has a vocabulary tell.
A huge one. And this is where we have to talk about what our sources call the buzzword ban list.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
ChatGPT, in particular, just lanes on this set of safe, high-probability words over and over again, and getting rid of them is a huge step.
All right, hit me with the list. What's the linguistic vanilla we need to avoid?
Okay, so the big ones to start cutting immediately are words like delve, tapestry, vibrant, landscape, realm, embark, excels, vital, comprehensive, intricate, pivotal.
I'm guilty of at least half of those.
We all are. But it continues. Moreover, arguably, notably, dive into intriguing, holistic, leverage, optimize, facilitate, crucial, and the classic, robust.
Wait a second. Robust and crucial. I mean, those feel pretty essential, especially in business or technical writing. Are we sure we should ban them?
That is a great question. And it gets to the heart of this. The analysis shows it's not that the words themselves are bad, it's that AI overuses them to an incredible degree. They're statistical crutches.
So it's about the frequency.
It's all about frequency. If you use the word crucial once, fine. If your AI-generated draft uses it 3 times in one paragraph, that's a red flag. The goal isn't a total ban, it's just mindful substitution. Find a word that sounds less like a template.
Like key or essential or strong.
Exactly. And what about the phrases? They're just as bad.
Let me guess. It is important to note that.
That's number 1 on the list.
Yeah.
Also, one could argue that, in today's world, and the absolute worst offender. In conclusion,
The classic sign-off of every school essay ever written.
it just screams, I am summarizing information, not I am connecting with you.
Okay, so we strip out the buzzwords, we vary the sentences, but the real magic is putting the human back in, right?
That's the secret ingredient. You have to inject authenticity. And since an AI has no personal memories or experiences, adding yours is probably the single most powerful technique to beat a detector.
You're shifting from just information to, what, learned wisdom.
That's it. Take a generic statement. An AI might write, time management is crucial for academic success. Utilizing a calendar and setting clear priorities are recommended best practices.
Correct. But so sterile.
Right. But the humanized version, the one with experience, sounds completely different.
It becomes something like, I learned the hard way that time management makes or breaks your college experience my sophomore year. I was drowning in stress until I finally found a system that actually worked me. Trust me, it changes everything.
See, that story, it completely changes the game. You've just massively increased the perplexity by adding an unpredictable personal story.
And that leads us right into the next big piece, which is adopting a conversational tone. We've added the story, now the language has to match.
And that slight messiness of real conversation is what builds trust. First thing, use contractions. Becomes it's, do not, becomes don't, always.
You also need to add what I've heard called vocal furniture, the little verbal tics of conversation.
Yes, filler words like, well, actually, so. They signal that a real human brain is processing this in real time, not just spitting out a pre-calculated response.
And what about pulling the reader in directly?
Absolutely essential. Use rhetorical questions. But here's what's so interesting about this, or you're probably wondering if this really works, and use direct address. Let's break this down. You have to consider this.
Okay, but let's talk about something that sounds counterintuitive. The sources mention adding strategic imperfections, which, sounds a lot like bad advice. Why would we intentionally add flaws?
Because humans aren't perfect.
Yeah.
We're inconsistent. And that inconsistency, that imperfection, is what makes us feel authentic. Detectors are looking for consistent, flawless text. That's the signal.
So we break the pattern.
You have to break the pattern. Maybe you use cannot in one sentence and can in another. Or you throw in a dash to represent a pause in thought, like I just did.
And of course, using slang or cultural references that anchor the text to a specific time and place.
Yes, an AI model is trained on a massive general data set. It tries to be universal. But when you use a phrase like no sweat, or even something more current, you're anchoring your writing in a specific human context.
And finally, on this point, emotion. AI is so often emotionally flat. We need to inject words that have feeling frustrating, gratifying, exciting. Expressing a real point of view is a huge perplexity booster.
So while all these manual edits are vital, the real next-level approach is to generate human-sounding text from the very start.
We're moving beyond just fixing the output.
We're moving into advanced prompt engineering.
This is where we stop treating the AI like a vending machine for words and start treating it like a, I don't know, a ghostwriter that you can train to learn your specific voice.
That is the perfect analogy. The most powerful method is to train the AI on your unique voice profile.
So the idea is we teach the machine our own linguistic fingerprints, our personal burstiness, our perplexity before it even starts writing.
That's exactly it. You start by grabbing 3 to 5 samples of your own writing. Maybe 1,000 words total. Could be emails, blog posts, whatever sounds like you.
Okay.
Then you use a 2-part prompt. The first prompt is for analysis. You tell the AI, analyze these samples, break down my style, tone, language, and structure into a set of specific rules.
So the AI becomes a literary critic of your own work. It tells you your own writing text.
Exactly. And then you immediately use that against it. That's the second prompt. Reverse engineering. You say, okay, take those rules you just found and build me a custom prompt template based on them.
Wow.
So now, for all future work, instead of a generic prompt, you're using this highly specific template that says, essentially, write about X, but do it in my voice, using my sentence rhythms and my vocabulary quirks.
That's incredibly powerful. You're solving the predictability problem before a single word gets generated.
And you can make it even better with detailed negative prompting. Don't just say what you want. Say what you don't want.
Give me an example.
Something like, write like a benevolent SEO strategist. That's the positive. But do not use buzzwords like streamline, delve, or tapestry. That negative instruction is so powerful for avoiding the AI's default habits.
And for really high-stakes stuff, the sources mentioned even more advanced workflows.
Yeah, things like chain of thought prompting, where you make the AI explain its reasoning step by step. That forces more complex, human-like structure. Or even combining different models.
You mean like using ChatGPT for one part and Claude for another?
Exactly. Use one for the outline, another for the body, a third for the conclusion. That mix of different AI voices creates a writing pattern that's incredibly difficult for any single detector to identify.
So bringing this all together, what's the big picture here? All this effort to humanize AI content isn't just about tricking a piece of software.
Not at all. It's about creating high-quality, trustworthy content that actually works online.
Which brings us directly to Google and its ranking factors. EAT.
Experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And everything we've talked about feeds directly into that.
Right. You can't show experience without adding those personal anecdotes we talked about.
You can't prove expertise without a human doing the hard work of fact-checking and citing credible sources.
And trustworthiness, that comes from having a voice that sounds like a real, accountable person is behind the words. A buzzword-filled, sterile article just kills trust on site. Now, we should mention that there are automated tools for this. Things like StealthWriter or HIX Bypass that claim they can humanize text with one click.
Yeah, but we have to add a huge warning here.
Yeah.
Never, ever rely only on those tools.
Why not?
Because our analysis shows they often just swap one predictable pattern for another. You might get past GPTZero today, but you're just creating a new humanizer fingerprint that detectors will learn to spot tomorrow. You always need that final human pass.
And we absolutely need to warn against some of the risky shortcuts people are trying.
Oh, definitely. Things like the Google Translate method, where you translate text through 5 languages and back again to scramble it.
Or using something called homoglyphs.
Right, where you replace an English letter A with a Cyrillic character that looks identical.
Why are those so dangerous?
Because the detectors are getting smarter. They don't just read the text anymore, they check the character encoding. They'll flag that instantly. And in any academic setting, using those tricks is considered straight up cheating. It's high risk, zero reward.
So to wrap this all up, the best strategy is really a combination of everything. You master the sentence variation for burstiness, you ban the robot words for perplexity, you inject personal stories and emotion, and for the best results, you train the AI to sound like you from the start.
The real goal isn't to fool a detector, it's to connect with a reader. To create something that sounds authentically like you, with your voice, your personality.
Which leaves us with a final, provocative thought. If we can train an AI to perfectly mimic human imperfection, to replicate our stories and our emotions, does the future of successful writing depend less on what you write and more on how uniquely you can train your machine to reflect your own specific life? Something for you to think about the next time you open a chat box.